It was Thursday morning when Rachel broke the news. I was engrossed in my hectic daily routine of making coffee when she folded her arms on the kitchen table and said, "I think I need a break." I stopped and turned to look at her. "You seem like you need some time alone?" "Sounds great," I thought, trying to figure out what she was asking for. She smiled and told me how lost she felt and how she needed to find herself again. I wrote the above and tried to keep my tone even, because I wanted to stick to my long-held belief that a person's character really shows in quiet moments. "Okay," I said to her obvious surprise. "If all you can do is create space, create it and then use it. You're not going to find yourself in this house." Below are questions about the agenda and implementation. Suddenly her expression changed, and she looked at me with surprise. "Griffin, stick to the plan. You're not really going to try to testify in this case, are you? You all chose this path, and I'm just following your lead." She crossed her arms and stood there, clearly intending to give me one last chance to give in, but I didn't budge. 15 minutes later, she was hurriedly gathering the rest of her things and walking across the lobby. I deliberately didn't ask where she was going. She stopped at the door, perhaps expecting some kind of objection from me. Instead, I simply opened the passenger door and said, "Goodbye, Rachel." That was the result of that conversation. She left without saying a word. The next morning, when the sun came up, I woke up at 6, made coffee, went to the gym, and came home to answer client emails. Rachel's absence in itself wasn't an experience that left me in a permanent state of loss. Her absence simply removed another variable to deal with. The following Saturday, my sister Sarah called, stunned. "What do you mean she really left? Are you in favor of us having this other thing? Are you out of your mind?" She interrogated us. Sarah's question, always thought-provoking, popped into my head as I looked out the window, and I smiled at the unreality of it all. What was the big deal? Sarah fell silent, knowing how I was when I was in this mood. I'm not good at begging. Drama isn't my thing. That same weekend, my best friend from childhood, John, came over to check on me. We started out just sitting on the grass, barely talking. He was staring at me intently, too, probably trying to figure out if I was about to break down. When I didn't respond, he got worried and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. He insisted, perhaps sensing the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. I told him in the simplest terms that Rachel needed her freedom, and I had given it to her. I wasn't going to spend all my time looking for someone who didn't know if they wanted it. John leaned back in his chair, nodded in understanding, and the conversation ended. There were moments when I found myself staring at her empty side of the bed or reaching for my phone, only to realize there would be no messages from her. I never let myself fall into despair. Instead, I returned to the boxing gym, where the heavy bag became my new muse, and the familiar punches began to awaken the clarity I had lost months ago. Rachel never called, not once, confirming my understanding that I wasn't the comfort she needed, but rather a safety net that she knew would always be there. The house didn't feel empty, it felt free. Until that fateful Sunday evening when a message from John arrived. "Just got back from my first movie date with Rachel. Didn't want to comment, she wasn't the only one there." Of course I was scared, but as I continued to look at the post, I felt calm. My pulse slower than usual. Shortly after I called John. He vividly described how he had met Rachel at a rooftop bar in the city center. She looked happy and relaxed with another guy. She seemed lost in her own world, as if nothing else mattered. John didn't stay on the line, and I didn't need any more explanations. Enough had been said. 2 days later, Sarah called and said, "You didn't hear this from me, but you know Rachel's friend Alicia posted all these photos from a winery upstate on Facebook? Rachel was in a couple and she was with a guy. Enzo. I think you know him." I didn't know him. but one name was enough for me to understand everything. Well, that's what space looked like. After 6 years of living together, just a few days after she left, she was tasting wine with a guy named Enzo. What upset me more than her leaving was the dishonesty that seemed to be behind her departure. She presented her departure as a journey in search of answers, when in reality it was a search for new opportunities. The next day, I deleted her name from our shared streaming services and canceled her additional line on our family plan. Whatever sense of excitement or attention Enzo brought her, she could afford to lose. If they decided to leave, that's one thing. But if they're doing it by deceiving you, it calls into question everything that came before. That night, as I packed her things, literally sealing the deal, I was surprised to find that I slept more deeply and soundly than I had in months. When I woke up, my heart and mind were no longer preoccupied with her. We had learned to prioritize future projects. By the end of the 3rd week, that silence had turned into something I actually began to look forward to. There were no hidden messages on social media, no ambiguous texts, no suspicious glances across the table, no awkward silences at family dinners. I turned the former guest room into a new office, throwing out the dreary, soulless furniture Rachel had made me buy. One afternoon, I drove to the gym to cancel her membership, which was still tied to my account. Even more upsetting was the quick, judgmental glance the administrator gave me when she opened the account. She lingered on Rachel's name, looked at it, then nodded when I asked her to remove it. No arguments, no problems, just a quiet acceptance of the new reality. To this day, I don't know if Rachel ever found out. The emails were private. She didn't write to me when things went south to air her grievances. In the end, she did get in touch, asking how I had survived. After 4 days of silence on my part, I got a phone call from her. I saw her name light up on my screen, but I didn't play games. I just didn't want her to be able to come back into my life as if nothing had happened. Until that night when Sarah contacted me to see how I was doing. She knew to be careful, perhaps ready to hear tension or resentment in my voice. I assured her that everything was fine. The house was peaceful and joyful, and I felt at home again. I forgot how much work I could get done when I was free from the emotional noise that had previously filled my atmosphere. When Rachel came out, she laughed and admitted that she had never loved me. In fact, I stopped missing Rachel the moment I realized she didn't really miss me. She wanted to leave and search, believing that I would be an anchor in her life if the journey didn't lead to better results. The truth is, I was on my way to rebooting my life. It was Tuesday afternoon when I received the most long-awaited message on Instagram from a young man named Enzo Navarro. I seriously considered ignoring it, but in the end, curiosity got the better of me. Listen, I'm sorry this sounds weird, but we need to talk. It's not just about Rachel. I sat glued to the screen, absorbing every word. It was him, the same man she had been trying to start a new life with. My father gave me a comprehensive answer, but I replied briefly, "Why not?" His response was immediate. "I didn't know you hadn't left to join us yet. There's just one problem. You deserve the truth. Can you come meet me?" The next day, I sat across from him at a local cafe in the city center. He looked nervous, as if he were about to read a statement of guilt rather than remorse. I gestured for him to begin. "Rachel let it slip that you two had broken up, and that it was mutual. She told you she was just staying on your couch until she got her life together." He fell silent, waiting for my response. It was scary, so I just stayed quiet. We had slept in the same bed just a few days before she left. I thought you two had broken up for good. She certainly made it sound like it was final. I nodded in agreement. I wasn't upset, just tired. "So why tell me this now?" He didn't even smile when he shrugged. I was deceived, too. You'll believe me when I say I'm not biased against her as a person. When we left, I didn't shake his hand, I just walked away. It was Thursday evening, exactly 4 weeks after Rachel left home, when she showed up at my door. I had been eagerly awaiting her return. Her months-long absence had made this moment inevitable. She didn't know I had already met Enzo. When I opened the door and saw her, she was standing there with her hands in her pockets, no makeup, her hair slicked back, and her eyes tired. "Hello," she thought, barely saying the word to the little girl on the bed. I didn't answer. She stumbled and asked, "Can we talk?" Without saying a word, I stepped back and let her pass, as she had let me pass, carefully placing her feet in the space she once owned, but hardly remembered. "You made history. You changed lives," she said. "Just, in my opinion, it wasn't the right place for it," I replied. She sat down on the edge of the sofa like a stranger, and I remained standing. "I've been thinking a lot," she began, "about you, about all of this." I took a step back, allowing her to tell her whole story, not knowing that I already had the whole story in my hands. Then she uttered the dreaded words. "Enzo and I weren't serious. It didn't go any further than that." This helped me confirm what I already believed, even though I had no intention of pursuing it, and it opened my eyes to what I had lost with you, with the group. I slowly turned my head, but instead of looking away from the table, I met her gaze, which was fixed on me. "What if you're not sure you want to keep this version?" Production release, photo, Christopher Tripp. At first, she didn't flinch. She even froze. I had to lean forward, keeping my composure and restraint. A few days ago, I ran into Enzo. He told me everything. How you let him sleep with you a few weeks before you moved out. How you told him it was over between us. How you kept texting me from his bed. Her lips moved, but no words came out. "No, you didn't change your mind. You thought I would accept any story you wanted to tell, that I would sit here, still hoping you would come back." Her eyes glistened with pain and unshed tears, but I didn't give up. "You turned us against each other." Ha! She lowered her head as the weight of the truth hit her. Everything she had carefully planned turned out to be meaningless. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I just needed to clear things up." "Clearing things up doesn't usually mean visiting a winery with another man," I objected. "That wasn't it at all. Rachel, you don't have to lie to prove you're right. You can't complain now when the chaos that has ensued is your fault and you have no other options." Her voice lowered, and she looked intently at us, sharing her thoughts. "I didn't know how empty it would be without you. I thought maybe I just needed something else. But that's not it." I kept my eyes on her, thinking about the first question I had saved. "If Enzo hadn't dumped you, would you be here today?" Her silence spoke volumes, and that was all I needed to confirm it. "Rachel, this isn't a speech. You're not getting a pass from me, and I don't have to give you one." Her voice trembled slightly. "I misunderstood everything. I know I was terrible to you, believe me. I was just as confused as you were. I just needed some time to figure things out, and I was wrong." I went into the hall, took a small shoebox out of the closet, and placed it in front of her. "I took care of your things. I hoped you'd come get them soon," I said. She looked at the box, then at me. "So, that's everything?" "Yes, that's everything," I said enthusiastically. "As my representative? You don't even let me speak?" I listened. "All I heard was someone trying to get back through the door you just slammed shut." This time she didn't resist or beg. Instead, she just nodded slowly, stood up, picked up the box, and headed for the door. As she was about to leave, she looked back one last time. "I hope you can forgive me someday." Too late, I thought, and replied, "I just did. That's why I'm closing the door on you." She turned on her heels and walked away without saying a word. After that first meeting, she tried to contact him dozens more times, through private messages, missed calls, and eventually a letter titled, "Please just read this." Deep down, she hoped I would stop time and act as if she hadn't left, to see if life with someone else would be better. That was never my intention. A couple of days after she left, I called the bank and asked them to close our joint account. I had already sent her her half when she left. The rest was hers, her legacy, lonely and untouched. A day or two later, Sarah called, her voice quiet, as if she were telling me bad news. I heard that Rachel was on tour. Enzo had broken up with her some time ago. She was now living with her cousin. Imagine my surprise when I confidently replied that everything was fine, and it was the honest and genuine truth. My best creative work returned to its former routine, pure, sharp, strict. I wasn't looking for anyone to come back. I was focused on going where I wanted to go. Rachel wasn't ready to give up without a fight. She paid a final visit to the house early in the evening. Unlike other times, I decided not to open the door. Then, even though I was in a completely different house a few blocks away, I saw her on the porch through a security camera, clutching something that looked like an envelope in her hand. She hesitated for a moment before dropping the envelope in the mailbox and walking away, returning to her house. I didn't read it. I knew very well what was in it and was completely against any further confessions. Whatever dream she was chasing, it had run its course. Her problem was that she thought everything would start over when she came back. I had already torn down that bridge and built a new one leading in a different direction. It's funny how no one ever talks about what closure looks like. It's not just a celebration of the beauty created by the interaction of different people. It's not just creating space for dialogue, and not always encouraging people to forgive each other and walk hand in hand into the future. Often, it just means leaving, clean, decisive, and quiet. Rachel left in search of a better life, perhaps thinking she could return when she realized there was no better life. By that time, I had transformed into a better version of myself. No anger, no resentment, just clarity. Some people leave in search of a better life, and others leave and discover that the problem was with them.